Hey everybody. So it's Coach K here. Today I'm bringing more of a somber topic to you guys because it has been riddling my brain all night, and um I'm really feeling called to share about this. Over the past few weeks, we've lost I believe it's 7 black women to domestic violence, and prominent black women. So these are educated, successful black women in politics and in different forms of government and industry that are impactful and powerful. And the loss of Serena Fairfax and the way that her husband has been portrayed has been triggering for me. And it's actually the basis of why Hillsys exists. Um, because as many of you who've probably been here since the beginning of the journey know, um, I lost my best friend to domestic violence while we were in Japan. And during that experience, I also suffered abuse at the hands of my ex-husband at the time. Well, current husband at the time, but now ex-husband. And yeah, because I don't want to go long, and it's been years of therapy, getting all of this out. I'm still very nervous. You can probably tell I'm rubbing my knees raw right now. But I'm just gonna talk about it. But I'm over here looking at the picture of me and my friend Nisi, and I actually want it as support right now. So hold on. But this was us in Japan. The loss of Serena Fairfax is devastating. It hits close to home in a way I don't often talk about. It brings me back to a time in my life where I had to escape my own marriage with my life. That's not something I share lightly. It was deeply traumatic, but it's also the very reason why Hill Sis TV exists. What makes this even heavier is that in just the past week, we've lost multiple prominent, successful black women to domestic violence. And yet, this is still a conversation people struggle to have openly. Part of the problem is how abuse is portrayed. We often think of it through a very specific lens, something dramatic, obvious, almost theatrical. And while those situations do exist, the reality is often much more subtle, layered, and complex. Abuse doesn't always look the way people expect it to. I also want to acknowledge something honestly. Conversations like this can feel uncomfortable, especially across racial dynamics. My current husband is biracial and is often perceived as white, and my past experience was with a black man I love deeply. My college sweetheart, someone I believed would be my forever. So this is not about attacking any group. This is about truth, accountability, and safety. In my experience, what made things more dangerous was how people responded to the abuse. My ex husband was educated, successful, and highly regarded. In his family and community, he was seen as the prize. And because of that, people made excuses for him. Protecting the image of Black love and supporting a successful Black man often took priority over my safety. I remember in November 2019, after a Marine Corps ball, when the situation escalated to sexual assault. But the truth is, that moment didn't come out of nowhere. There had been choking, hitting, being locked in closets, financial control, and constant threats. Threats of what he would do if I left, if I defended myself, or if I involved the police. I was told more than once that I wouldn't make it out alive. After that final incident, I quietly began preparing to leave. As everyone knows, it's the most dangerous time for any abuse victim. I planned to go in February, but something shifted in December. The night before I left, I had moved into my office to sleep. He came upstairs, unlocked the door, and told me, "I just want you to know I'm downstairs cleaning my gun." That wasn't normal. When I questioned it, he became defensive, which raised even more alarm. The next morning, he didn't go to work like usual. I went downstairs to shower, not realizing he was still home. While I was in the shower, he unlocked the door from the outside and came in, demanded to know why I wouldn't sleep with him anymore. I told him plainly because he had raped me and refused to acknowledge it. That's when his behavior escalated. He started yelling, hitting the walls, getting in my face, and I couldn't see clearly because I was in the shower and I didn't have my glasses on. And I felt completely vulnerable. In that moment, I just prayed, "Lord, be with me. Satan, get behind me." And something shifted. He backed off and started crying, repeating, "I'm not a demon." I never called him one, but that's what he heard. I got dressed as quickly as I could. Then came the switch. He began begging me to stay to talk. But I knew and got a prompting that if I stayed, something worse was going to happen. I had this overwhelming clarity. Someone was going to end up dead or in jail. There were 2 guns in the living room. And he kept trying to get me to go sit there and talk. He even pulled out what looked like a suicide note. The same man who had refused help when I reached out to a chaplain weeks earlier was now using his mental state as a reason to pull me back in. I realized in that moment I was not safe. Before I left, I asked him directly, "If I walk out of this house, are you going to hurt me?" Because I was afraid to turn back and be shot. I got in my car and started driving to work. Then it hit me. He had been talking about harming himself days earlier and right before I left. I panicked, thinking he might follow through, and I come home later that day to find him dead in the house. So I began to turn around. But before I got to the house, he finally called me back, and his tone had completely changed. He was cold, irritated, asking why I was even calling. And that's when it really clicked for me. The emotional manipulation, the switching between victim and aggressor, the use of threats and fear to maintain control. That was part of the abuse too. After that moment, something in me started to shift, but the story didn't end there. One of the ways he would keep control over me was through emotional manipulation. Anytime I tried to leave, he would threaten to kill himself. He would grab knives, reference the guns, and put me in a position where I felt responsible for whether he lived or died. And when you care about someone, when you love them since you were 19, that kind of pressure is heavy and it keeps you stuck longer than what you want to admit. I made it to the school that morning. What's wild is that the night before, while I was at the basketball game as the cheer coach, I had already tried to tell my athletics director and my principal, "I don't feel safe at home." I didn't even fully understand the weight of what I was saying at the time, but I knew something wasn't right. The next day, oh, Lord Jesus, be with me. The next day, I'm standing in my classroom teaching Their Eyes Are Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston. And all of the things that we were discussing, abuse, the power and control wheel, As my students were settling in and reading quietly, I looked at the diagram and I felt like a complete fraud. Here I was teaching about abuse, breaking it down academically while living it in real time. I couldn't hold it together anymore. I texted my principal, my mentor, and the counselor. And I said, I need someone right now. I'm about to break down in front of these kids. They came immediately, and we stepped across the hall into my yearbook press room. And I just lost it. I'll never forget my principal apologizing to me over and over again for not making time the day before. They contacted Hopeful Horizons and helped get me out the same day. They made sure I had support, helped coordinate my move into an apartment, everything. In Beaufort County, I love y'all for that. That was the day my life truly began to change. But even after I left, the abuse didn't just stop. After the divorce, he would still call me, taunting me, trying to control the narrative, saying things like, I don't tell people how you are. And that kind of statement messes with your mind because you start questioning yourself. But the truth is, I had done nothing but love him. I watched that relationship slowly deteriorate over years. I watched aggression build and still had to make the hardest decision of my life to leave. Even when we were forced into therapy during COVID, because the state of South Carolina doesn't let you get divorced immediately, you gotta wait a year. The truth came out in ways he didn't want to admit. He said he needed someone to hold him down no matter what. And I had to ask him directly, what does that mean? Does that mean you want to be able to hurt someone and they just stay? He was offended, but the reality was that's exactly what he wanted. He wanted someone to absorb the abuse verbally, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically, and call it love. And for a long time, I stayed quiet. Not because I didn't know it was wrong, but because I was afraid of what speaking up would represent. I didn't want to be seen as tearing a Black man down. That pressure is real. It's unspoken, but it's there. And it keeps a lot of Black women silent. So in 2021, I made a decision. I got a new therapist, intentionally a Black male therapist named Xavier. And Xavier, if you're watching, I appreciate you so much. Because I wanted to heal without developing bitterness. I wasn't going to let my experiences harden my heart. I love people. I love deeply. And I wasn't going to lose that part of myself. The guilt, though, that lingered. Even when I found love again, it came with its own layers. My husband is biracial and often perceived this way. And I'm very aware of how that looks to the outside world. One of the reasons why I've kept so quiet about this for years. So I'm very aware of the assumptions people can make, especially knowing my past. But I also know this. I did the work to heal. My heart was open to whoever God had for me, whether that was Black, white, Asian, Hispanic, biracial, it didn't matter. What mattered was character. What mattered was safety. What mattered was a man with a heart aligned with how I deserve to be loved. And the truth is, the best men I know, including strong, incredible Black men in my life, share the same qualities my husband has now. And that's what healthy love looks like. That's what protection feels like. That's why what happened to Serena Fairfax hits so deeply. Because too often, when women, especially educated, accomplished Black women, find themselves in abusive situations, there's a silence around it. And not just from the outside world, but from within our community. There's this expectation that we should endure, that we should prioritize a man's mental health, his image, his success over our own safety. And if we don't, somehow, we're no longer the victim. We become the reason it didn't work, the one who couldn't hold him down, the one tearing a black man down. And that narrative is dangerous. I stayed quiet for a long time, but I can't stay quiet anymore because this isn't just my story. It's the reason why HealSys exists. It's the reason why I speak. And it's the reason I will continue to speak from here on out, no matter if my hands are shaking and sweaty, or my voice is unsteady, or there are tears rolling down my face. No matter how uncomfortable it makes people, because silence is costing Black women their lives. Thank y'all for listening. That's why HealSys was created. That's why I continue to try and bring light into this world, because my friend didn't get to make it. Serena didn't get to make it. Many of the other women that we've lost in these past couple of weeks didn't get to make it. And that is why I preach and teach for women leaving these situations and who have left these situations, how to get out of survival mode and how to get into thriving mode. And it takes a lot of work. That takes a lot of healing. It takes a lot of therapy. I left that situation diagnosed with complex PTSD and a fatigue disorder, because it literally drained my spirit and my life force. So I physically can't even do some of the things that I could do before. But I'm okay because God has been so good, and I never thought that He would restore me. And through all the years that I lost, I've gained so much. I gained community. I gained a wonderful husband that I always knew existed in my heart when I used to cry out when I was married in that abusive situation, afraid to live. And God gave me something greater. And so for any woman who is going through that, you are not alone. God loves His daughters. He loves His daughters. And I promise you, we can get you the help you need. And when you call on Him and you trust Him, no weapon formed against you shall prosper. And it's not a covenant if y'all both are not walking in agreement under the Lord. It's not. If He is abusing you, there is no reason for anyone in your life to tell you that's acceptable based on any of their reasons. God does not want His daughters abused. And that was something that I literally had to walk through from 2019 when I left to 2021 when we formally got divorced. And I spent those years literally just basking and learning just how much God loves me. And He wouldn't want anybody to hurt me like that. And He wouldn't want anybody to hurt you like that. So, I'm sorry I got emotional this morning, y'all. But this, I couldn't just let pass anymore. I've been sitting on it quiet because my ex-husband is still very much in this community. He went on to join the fraternity that's to my sorority and is still trying to do community things. I had to call Hopeful Horizons at one point because he literally got on a Zoom webinar with them pretending that he was an advocate for abuse against women and child abuse. And I had to literally call them and say like, hey, I'm currently going through a divorce with this guy right now because this is what happened. And I remember what she told me on the phone. And she said, this is what they do. This is what narcissists and abusers do, and people use narcissists lightly. When that happened, that incident in the shower, that the Marine Corps forced him to go to inpatient care in Florida, and that's when we discovered that he had been walking around with a narcissistic personality disorder diagnosis and bipolar 2 and other cluster B personality disorders. So that's why I don't use that term narcissist lightly. When I talk about narcissists, I actually am talking about narcissists. I lived with that type of monster, and it's draining, and it can kill your spirit and actually drain you physically. And I went through that. Like, I was bleeding for like 3 weeks at one point. And it's not that I'm not over it, because I'm so grateful that I am. I don't cry for me now because my life is so beautiful. But for who I was and everything that I was at that time, I hurt for that girl, because I see in Serena how easily that could have been me. I see in my friend Nisi how easily that could have been me. And that's why, even if I can just give you guys a little bit of help and support, because when I was in Japan, we didn't have access to all of the servers and websites that you do in the United States. Facebook was my only way to connect with the world, Facebook and Google. And so that's why I became a Google educator. That's why I created the Healsis community. So no matter where you are in the world, you have support. You can find support. You can find a voice of reason. And so, y'all, love each other, because healing is not an option. It's required. If we want to love, if we want to follow the commands of Jesus, which is to love one another, love God with all our heart, mind, body, and soul, and to love one another as we love ourselves, that requires us to do the deep digging, the searching, the soul finding, and the therapy that's required, so we're not out here bleeding on everybody. So y'all have a wonderful Saturday. Thank y'all for listening, and God bless y'all. Coach K out.